one. Welcome in, guys, to another episode of the NASCAR Gambling Show. I am your host, Josh Neal. I'm joined alongside Derek Yoder, a expert contributor of Betting Pros. Had to add some knowledge to the show because I am not the smartest guy in the world, but very happy he could join us today, talk about the unpredictable Atlanta Motor Speedway, that repaved Atlanta Motor Speedway. So I guess we discussed this before the show, but we're going to start with the Cup Series. We're going to try to cover some odds for all three series, but we decided we wanted to talk about Cup first. So I'll just do a rundown of the odds. We're going to go off DraftKings Sportsbook. I like to play DraftKings on fantasy and sportsbook too. So we'll just use that for the simple purposes in case you get something out of this from fantasy. This will be more focused on gambling today, but we'll try to get some fantasy in there if we can. But starting out, Ryan Blaney and Kyle Larson, plus 1,000 co-favorites, followed by Joey Logano, Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch plus 1,300, Chase Elliott plus 1,300, Kevin Harvick plus 1,500, Alex Bowman plus 1,500, William Byron plus 1,500. I mean, it keeps going on. And if you take anything from this, it's basically saying Vegas does not know what the hell is going to happen because these odds are so stacked on top of one another. If you take a look, Blaney is a good plate racer. Kyle Larson is the king of mile and a halves. So you mix those in, that's probably how you get your co-favorites. But I'll start off with you, Derek. What's your initial thoughts, feelings? What's your expectations? Just run me down what you're thinking before the practice session start.
Yeah, well, Josh, I appreciate you having me on. And of all weeks, the unpredictability of Atlanta with the repave. So, my initial thoughts were similar to what you said. I was kind of wondering what Ryan Blaney, after looking some of his statistics, when you take the super speedways and the mile and a halves and kind of mix them, he was coming out pretty much on top on some of those. So I wondered what they would do. But yeah, the books are definitely in a guessing game as well, along with all of us. So the odds kind of, nothing really surprising to me. As I mentioned on my Twitter account, that this is not your average mile and a half, track odds. Obviously, we've been seeing, like you said, with Larson. I mean, he's arguably 2.5 times more now this week than he has been the last few weeks. So it'll be really interesting. I think my storyline coming into this weekend, there's a few drivers that need to bounce back. Denny Hamlin being one of them, Martin Truex. But Brad Keselowski, guys like that as well. They need to have good showing. So it'll be really interesting when we start diving into the numbers, what some of these guys, what their potential is. You kind of, in my personal opinion, you kind of throw out track history at this specific track, not so much what they have accomplished, but like Kevin Harvick, he's been so good at this track for many years, especially on the old pave. He was able to run the bottom a lot better than anybody. Not so much anymore. That's those kind of things you throw out, but it'll be really interesting. So I'm really appreciative of you having me on, and I'm looking forward to diving into this week, this race specifically.
Yeah, no doubt. And like you said, you can throw pretty much track history out of it. With the repave, the horsepower, new car, there's just so many unknowns. And if you base it off track history, that's only going to get you so far. And at the end of the day, it's going to be a whole different track because, when you repave a track, the tire wear changes. And the guys, who love the track, they're really good at saving their tires. And that's why Kevin Harvick was so good for years at Atlanta. But you throw that out the window, tire wear is probably not going to be an issue, although I have heard, rumblings on Sirius that they have purposely made a tire that wears this year. So expect some fall off, I would assume, but not as much as you would definitely see, we've seen so far.
Yeah.
But, just looking here, does anything jump out to you like odds wise? Is there like a guy? I know is there a guy you're running to bet with these odds? Because I mean, they're so like on top of each other as we spoke about. It's like,
Yeah.
where's your value at? I mean, you got guys like, I mean, one that stands out to me is Noah Gragson at plus 9,000. I mean, those
Okay.
colleague cars have shown speed all year. I think that's
Mhm.
a little disrespectful to him because he has shown the ability at plate tracks. I mean, he was running
Right.
top 10 before he got wadded up at the Daytona
Yeah.
500.
Good point.
So if you're looking at fantasy, Noah Gragson might be one of those. Just I haven't looked at the salaries, but just based off of his odds, he's probably going to be a cheap play. And I mean, that car's probably going to be fast. He's really good. I think he's better than, Haley, Hemrick. I think he's the best of those bunch. So I definitely feel like he's going to get the most out of that car. I would expect him to be around the top 15. But man, it's just slim pickings for value. I mean, you got Cole Custer, but I mean, we're not going to run to the window betting Cole Custer, are we?
No, I don't think we are. There was a track comparison that I heard, and they were comparing it to Kentucky, this racetrack to Kentucky, just maybe because of the tire wear. Cole Custer obviously won a few years ago, but no, I'm definitely not running necessarily to bet Cole Custer, not today and not any day, anytime soon. The driver that really jumped out to me, and William Byron, he's shown a lot of speed, definitely this year. He has the highest rating driver from the super speedway and an intermediate track. A great follow on Twitter who kind of produces some of this information is iFantasy. Ryan is his name, and he's just tremendous when it comes to some of these things. And he highlighted that William Byron, which kind of went up perfectly with some of my outright bets. William Byron has shown the most complete speed this year on those three tracks. Let's take out Phoenix because obviously that's a short track, not really relevant this week. But if you date back last year, they had a lot of speed. I mean, he showed a lot of speed for not being a playoff car since he was eliminated at Kansas. He just showed a lot of speed kind of towards the end of the year, which really, I feel like, kind of got him the momentum going in this year. So personally, William Byron is a guy I will be jumping on. 15-1, it's not bad since all the odds are pretty much bunched up, especially on DraftKings. I mean, you got to go the whole way down to Kurt Busch, which is maybe 11 or so down the list before you break into the twos at 20-1. So 15-1, William Byron. Jeff Gordon's going to be in the booth on Sunday. Who knows? That could be an interesting element there. But William Byron is a guy that I feel like I have a lot of confidence and faith in this weekend.
No, definitely. He is. I mean, you look at every track this year outside of Daytona, and he's been at the top of the practice charts. He's had speed, and if you look at the Final Four last year, if he wouldn't have had such a bad stretch there at the beginning, you could argue William Byron would have been in the Final Four last year.
Yeah.
And definitely had a shot at winning the title. So, for me this year, it's like he shows the speed early in the weekend. He shows speed. And then halfway through the race, I don't know what it is, but he falls off or something happens. If he can just stay up there, and his pit crew is not doing him any favors. I think his pit crew was abysmal this past weekend. That's partially why he got stuff back there. And you know how these late race restarts are. So not the finish he was hoping for by any means, but I do like him. He's bound to win. I picked him to win at least 3-4 races this year just because I'm a big believer in him. I still think he's number 2 at Hendrick behind Kyle Larson, but we can debate that for another day.
Now there's a hot take. You were talking about hot takes before we recorded. That's an interesting hot take.
Yeah, and people probably, if you look at wins, they're probably going to say it's, Larson, Chase, Bowman, then Byron. I think William Byron's the second most talented. Like I said, it's a hot take. And he doesn't have the championship that Chase Elliott does, but we'll talk about that some other day. But
right.
I mean, Tyler Reddick, he's bound to win one of these. He's right there at plus 1,600. I mean, he's done everything but win a race this year. Same thing with Ryan Blaney, but he's a favorite. But I guess, talking about this year, what's your thoughts on Toyota? Because they seem lost. I mean, but, they could have won was it Vegas? They should have won Vegas if
Yeah.
if Eric Jones doesn't run out of talent, hit the wall. What's your take on them? Are you gonna wait and see approach with them, or are you gonna take some chances? Because Truex is plus 1,600. I mean, he's getting down there in some unforeseen territory.
Yeah, right. Yeah, my thoughts are this. So I hit on Toyota pretty well personally after their Auto Club debacle, if you will, with the overheating engines and everything. I figured they would be pretty do well at a bounce back for Vegas. We, like you just pointed out, Eric Jones, if he's not causing that caution, we're seeing a 1-2 Toyota finish, maybe a little bit more momentum going into Phoenix. I got bit bad last week by Christopher Bell, Denny Hamlin. Was looking to put Truex in a DFS play. I mean, just from a dollar standpoint, the lineup was working out. But Toyota was horrific last week. Christopher Bell is currently on my do not bet list. I got a long list from football, basketball, and Christopher Bell is right there. So until he figures it out, I'm going to put him in there. But yeah, I'm a little surprised when you look at the stats. Denny Hamlin clearly down below some of the bottom feeders when it comes to statistics this year, especially in the standings. But of any of the drivers, let's put Kyle Busch aside. Kurt Busch obviously has shown good, finishes, good speed when it's there, from the 2311 side. So, I mean, Toyota is just down all the way, which I'm surprised about. But that's why I'm hesitant on which driver I want to bet on. But yeah, I'm a little shocked by them because I thought coming out of that camp, we got practice coming back. I thought Kyle Busch, we talked about it a lot. Kyle Busch getting practice should be really solid. So I've been a little surprised by them for sure.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of Toyota, speaking of Christopher Bell, is there a guy that spins out more by himself than Christopher Bell? Like, I joke about this in my fantasy group Slack a lot because there's some Christopher Bell fans, but this dude, he spins out so much, and it's like every time I play him in DFS, and he was on my shit list like last year because he screwed me. Between him and I think Eric Jones over the past 3 years, them two right there single-handedly have cost me so much money. And at this point, if I lose money, in DFS because of Christopher Bell, so be it. I'm done playing the guy because he spins out by himself. Eric Jones spins out by himself. I think it's something with that 20-car curse.
That's interesting.
I don't know if that's a thing, but ever since Carl Edwards left that camp, Suarez, obviously he was a not team, but they've had some guys in there that for whatever reason, they just shit the bed when they get there. But enough of that talk. I don't know what to do with Toyota. I mean, I'm not going to play Toyota. I mean, Denny Hamlin's probably the guy you want to play if you're thinking of plate tracks. Truex is slowly dwindling. And I bit the bullet and played him in DFS this past week. He was lost. I don't care what anybody says. I just think Cole Pern, he misses Cole Pern. Although, you could argue Truex could have won the championship last year. You could really argue that. I still think I'll sit here today and argue that if he had Cole Pern, I still think he's dominating. I think it'd be him and Larson, but I'm not too sure on James Small as a long-term crew chief there. But yeah, I mean, like you said, these odds are so stacked up. There's really nothing you can really pinpoint other than what we have said. I think if I'm giving a winner out right now today, I think, you go Byron. I think I'm going to go Reddick. I think those are solid odds for both. And do you have a long shot? Let's think here, 3,000 and up. Well, I mean, who would you pick? Who are you throwing some lunch money on?
Yeah, well, from 3,000 and up, a guy, there's a few to choose from. Austin Dillon, let's just stay in the Chevy camp for a minute, which Chevy at plus 140 at some books. I have to see what it is here currently. But Chevy is one of my best bets for the week. So not to really stick with the Chevy camp, but just to kind of throw that out there. Austin Dillon, he's got a stat here for you about him. He is a top 15. He's been finishing top 15 a lot. He's got an average finish of 10.6 at similar tracks. He's 10 for 10 in finishing top 15 at similar length tracks since 2021. Obviously, when you think of Daytona, kind of think, well, he obviously won there, so you think, well, why wouldn't I bet on him again? If this is going to be a super speedway conversation, or track, we can go that conversation route. I think they've shown a lot of speed. He got dumped last week, which was not his fault. Would have finished top 10 again. I feel like he comes out of the gates really slow, which I'm surprised about. But then somehow, in some way, they finish, up towards the front, top 10. So he's a guy, plus in that, 3,000 and above range that I like. Obviously, he's right on that bubble of 3,000. So he's a guy from a long shot, put a little lunch money on, and take the kids out for lunch then this week with the wife. That would be who I put my money on.
Yeah, I would agree. And, you look, I keep up with lap times in practice pretty well, and he looks lost in practice, but that goes to show you. He does well. The crew chief does well adapting to changes. They've got a handle on how to fix the car. That RCR track house, that group, the Petty, just that whole umbrella of RCR, the RCR family, they really seem to know how to fix their car and make it fast this year. Whether it's one guy pops off this week or another guy pops off that week, I would agree. If we're going to stick with that, sort of thing, Eric Jones is plus 5,000. Now, I know I just said that he cost me so much money, but he is, him and Suarez here. You could point at both of these. Suarez is getting disrespected. Eric Jones is getting disrespected if you just based off the stuff that we've seen this year. Suarez could have won Las Vegas. It's Eric Jones. He was dominating. Was it Fontana? I think.
Yeah, it was. Yep.
So, these odds, like I said, you're slim pickings, but lunch money on those guys, shoot. We could have chaos now. If there's carnage at the end of the race, and if everybody's bump drafting, it could be just who finishes the race. And that would be your back at, Talladega and Daytona mindset of bets. And you could throw out a bunch of these guys. But I think it's going to be interesting to see if they draft and practice, how that happens. I think we'll get a really good idea of how the race is going to be in practice. And I'm sure these odds will change. But from the way it looks, the odds look pretty much like a plate race to me. So if we don't see as much pack racing, I definitely think these odds will start to gap. So get on these numbers now if you like any of these guys before practice. And so
isn't that a funny thing about gambling? How you can dog somebody 1 minute, and you said Eric Jones ran out of talent, spun again, first with a 20 car, and then 2 minutes later, that ticket of what'd you say, plus 5,000. 50 to 1. That's a beautiful ticket to cash. Well, I like Eric Jones now. So I do think the GMS cars obviously have shown some speed. You mentioned it in Fontana. Jones finishing, qualifying well, finishing well. Those are guys to give a look at. Ty Dillon in that camp is one of 4 drivers that finished in the top 20 this year. Eric Almirola is the one, and then the Busch brothers, Kurt and Kyle, are the other 2. So from a little bit of a long shot, if you want to look at even like a top 10 play, because you don't have much trust in Ty Dillon, for anybody out there right now on DraftKings, he's going off at plus 300 to finish T10. So that's not a bad play, just to kind of put a bow on some of that GMS, Eric Jones and Ty Dillon conversation.
Yeah, Ty Dillon's a really good plate racer. So like I said, it depends on how the race plays out, but yeah, that's enough. And Cole Custer too, he's a really good plate racer. He's always there at the end. So what do you want to do here? Do you want to go through some matchups? We'll pick a couple of matchups and go through.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what I can pick out here. Well, you know what? We'll just do these featured matchups just for the sake of it. There's 4 here. Chase Briscoe versus Tyler Reddick. I'm going Tyler Reddick. Briscoe's been fast too, but I mean Tyler Reddick, you can't name a week he's not been fast.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think, they're both obviously going off at -115 right now. I think Chase Briscoe's getting a little bit of love from the books prior, with his win last week. Again, you mentioned it. Tyler Reddick's been fast all year. Could have won easily at Auto Club, had the most dominant car. And then last week, just came up just short. So, in that matchup, and I'm sure the majority will be on it. Maybe that's why the books maybe know something there. But Tyler Reddick would be the play. I agree.
Moving on to Chase Elliott versus Denny Hamlin. All of these are -115, really, except the last one. But for me, I guess it's kind of what you see in this race, because if it's a plate race, you're going Denny Hamlin. If it's a 1.5-mile race, you got to lean the Chevy horsepower. So I'm going to let you do this one. I'll let you do this one first, and then I'll play off of you.
Yeah. Well, I think I would have to give, just because of the unknown and the lot of talk of the super speedway type race that we might see because of the pack racing, and similar, obviously the same specs to the super speedway car. Denny Hamlin would have to get the edge over Chase, in my opinion.
I agree. Nothing more to say than that. You nailed that point. So moving on, Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, same odds, -115. I mean, as a Ryan Blaney fan, it'd be nice if he could close a race out. There's one guy who closes races here, and there's like one guy that fades late in races. The guy who doesn't close races is Ryan Blaney. So I'm going Kyle Larson.
Interesting.
Now, if it's a plate track, Ryan Blaney should have the favorite, but I don't know. I see Ryan Blaney in the wall. I feel like he's going to the garage in this race, because Ryan Blaney's a very aggressive driver, and I just don't know how blocking is going to do at this track. Like I said, I just see carnage if it's the plate track, and I don't know. I feel like I'm saying two different things every time, but
right. It's part of the unique nature of the unknown of this race. And you said you're a Ryan Blaney fan, correct? And you're going with Larson.
Yeah.
Well, my favorite driver is the from what you said, the third best driver in Hendrick. So I'm a Chase fan, and obviously went him against him in the last matchup. So I pointed out this matchup specifically: Ryan Blaney -115 against Kyle Larson. I do a betting preview show Wednesday nights at 8 on Twitter Spaces, and this was the specific matchup that I pointed out. I love Ryan Blaney against Kyle Larson. If this happens to be similar to what you were saying, if this happens to be a super speedway like race, anybody that out there listening, go and look at Kyle Larson's statistics. They are awful when it comes to super speedway. So for that reason, mainly he's a guy I faded last year at Daytona or Talladega against William Byron. I'll go against him, not often, but I'll go against him this week.
Oh yeah,
I'll take Ryan Blaney.
And when he was getting talked up at Daytona, I was like, please just go look at his results at these tracks.
Yeah.
They're awful. I don't care if he's the Vegas favorite or he's second. Sure. He's just not that good at plate tracks, whether it's identifying when to leave the pack, whether it's just surviving. He's not good at it. And, Ryan Blaney is a smart play. I'm not going to bet that matchup. I'm staying far away from any matchups. But I mean, if it's going to be a plate track, Ryan Blaney is definitely the logical choice there. Final matchup, Ricky Stenhouse versus Bubba Wallace. Man, this one you just kind of want to just, I don't know. This is like fuel. I mean, you're fighting gas here. Bubba, he seems to survive the plate tracks better than Ricky Stenhouse.
Sure.
Bubba's pretty damn good at these plate tracks lately. You can argue he might be better than Stenhouse lately at these things. Ricky, for whatever reason, he can't survive a track anymore. Like, I pick him in DraftKings and he ends up in the wall, or he just ends up flying through the grass and hits somebody else. But I'm going Bubba just because Bubba seems to survive these things, and that's really all I can say.
Yeah, I think that's the right play there. Everything in me really wanted to go Ricky, but last week was such a disappointment. I mean, he was off from the get-go with having to change engines and just being down the whole time. I understand the tracks are completely different than this week, Phoenix versus Atlanta. But you said it best. I mean, Bubba has survived at some of those tracks better. And, for giving me, Bubba at -120, that seems to be the better play. This is kind of hold your nose. You're going to be watching the ticker and stressing the whole time. But I would side with you. I thought that was a good call.
Yep. So moving on, I think that'll close out the Cup. There's obviously more props, some if you guys want to look at it. But you'll just have to go on BK Sportsbook. I know some the offshore places they probably have some different matchups that might be tasty, but I don't mess with those offshore sites anymore. Let's move on to Xfinity here. I'm thinking we can just do matchups here.
Okay.
Great. I think we can do matchups here. That way we can kind of evaluate who we think's the best, just to save some time. So if we're looking here, we'll just do we'll do the featured matchups too. Okay. But here's an interesting one. Austin Hill versus Sheldon Creed. I wish you could combine the two. But Austin Hill favored -120 against Sheldon Creed. Those guys, they don't pop in practice as much as I'd hoped. Sheldon Creed, he seems to come out more on the flat tracks. Obviously, he's dominated on all the tracks, to no one's surprise. I mean, he is a Truck Series champion. But Austin Hill has been outperforming him this year. He seems way more comfortable, and he's ran those one-off races for Hattori, I think, in the Xfinity Series. So I'm thinking Austin Hill. He's always up there. Didn't he win Daytona this year?
He did, yeah.
I mean, I'm going Austin Hill on that one. But I mean, you would think they're going to work together and be there at the end together. But I'll go Austin Hill.
Yeah, I would lean actually the other way with Sheldon Creed -110. There's just something about it. Maybe it's just that recency bias of Austin winning the Daytona race with Xfinity. I think from a talent perspective, I kind of give Creed maybe the edge there. A little early, obviously, in this season, but of those two, personally, I think Creed, but you can throw an argument either way.
Yeah, I mean, if you want more bang for your buck, I think Creed is the play.
Yeah.
Moving on to Allgaier versus Allmendinger, -115 for both of these guys. I mean, it's hard to argue colleague at a plate track. So with that being said, I'm going to go Allmendinger.
Yeah, that's interesting. I thought the same thing. The only thing I would give a slight edge to with Justin Allgaier, he did the tire test. He ran some of the next gen cars down there at Atlanta. He's kind of coming out of the JRM camp as well. So yeah, you're right. Can't really go against colleagues since they've been so dominant. How can you bet against them? So that one's tough. I think I'll go the opposite way. And that's probably a losing bet, but Justin Allgaier is probably who I would say just slightly, but you can throw a quarter up and tails that one. That's a really good matchup.
Yeah, it's one of those you're probably going to have to play one of them in DFS. That's probably more of a DFS kind of thing, whether you're deciding between them, but if you're betting, you probably don't want to bet this matchup. Ryan Sieg versus Anthony Alfredo. Oh my God. How is this on the featured matchups page?
That's a good question. This one was put in by mistake.
It had to be. Anthony Alfredo. Oh my God. That dude cost me so much money this past week. He didn't even complete a lap. They acted like they had fixed the engine problem. Like they were so confident. And the dude, I mean, the car doesn't even start. I mean, what a joke. I mean, how do you not just take a penalty or something and start the car? I mean, they were so thrown off. Like, come on, man. Like, he was so on to, and I think I had like 75% of them, and it was just a brutal day for me in Xfinity. But aside from that, I don't even know how to break this one down. Do you have any idea how to break this one down? Because Ryan C, should he be -150 against anybody?
Probably not. Probably not, but the only thing about Alfredo I would say is, he's got obviously some Cup experience. Obviously, we didn't see him race last week because he got put in the garage from the gate. Which when you do the when NASCAR does the practice and qualifying in one day and a race, that's the unfortunate nature of how that stuff can go. Alfredo at Fontana, if you remember, he was a couple laps down, had fresh tires, almost won that race. I did put a little bit on him at Daytona, was pulling for him at Fontana. At plus money, if this is a super speedway like race, I think I would try just to maybe hope that I got lucky and had some fortune on my side. So I'd go Alfredo, but I mean,
you would
it is what it
think
is.
Ryan Seek's probably going to have more speed, but if it's a plate race,
Right.
Plus 120. You just
right.
got to blindly bet that.
Right.
I don't know if I'm going to have the stones to bet it, but if you want to parlay some of these matchups, that might be a good good centerpiece. So
Really good point. Yeah.
Moving on to Allgaier versus Gibbs. Do you trust Ty Gibbs in this situation? Because it seems like he could very well end up causing the shit show to start. Xfinity, I call it a circus because it's coming. You just don't know when it's coming.
Right.
I think I'm going Allgaier here just because I feel like Allgaier's more experienced. He knows when to push it, when not to push it. And that alone, I think, gives him that advantage here.
Yeah, I chose Allgaier earlier against Allmendinger. I would side with him as well. If we were at a traditional intermediate track, the better car obviously is with Ty Gibbs. That would be easier play. But kind of with the same things you said, Allgaier over Gibbs, kind of in this unique format. So I think that would be the play.
Yeah. This one's kind of interesting. Gragson is minus 105, Allmendinger minus 115. I'm going Gragson. I've done said I think he's. You look at his stats. You can't argue his stats. He has a knack for. He's got a knack for every track type. You can hate the guy, love the guy. You can hate his personality. He's got talent. He's good at every track. He's there at road courses. He's there at short tracks. He's there at plate tracks. He doesn't really have a weakness. His results, say. Now, if I'm going to use this argument against Allgaier Gibbs, Gragson's the more aggressive guy. Allmendinger's the more patient guy. Mm-hmm. So, but you can't argue Gragson's stats, and that alone with the better odds. Minus 105. that's basically getting your money back and more. So, I'm going Gragson.
Love that play. Look at the last 4 weeks. He joined some rare company and finishing top 3, 4 weeks in a row, obviously with the win last week. So I'll continue with him. The momentum, he's obviously racing in Cup for Colleague this weekend. So I think he's going to have a small edge on some of the competition in the Cup race. But from an Xfinity standpoint, I think he's the best driver so far this year. I think your points are valid. So I would go Gragson as well.
Yep. Moving on to Sam Mayer versus Landon Castle. You hold your nose. This is one I'm not going to bet. I would not suggest betting. Just for the sake of time, I'm just going to say Sam Mayer and call it a day.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. Again, hold your nose, like you said. Yeah, Mayer's a fine play there.
Yeah, and then Daniel Hemrick versus Trevor Bayne.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing. I think Trevor Bayne, he's got to capitalize on these opportunities. Is Trevor Bayne going to go up there? If this is a aggressive race, if it's an aggressive race early, these guys are flying around and he wads his car up in the first 20 laps. Is that really maximizing your opportunity? He wants to win a race so bad. He probably wants to win one more than 95% of the people in this race. He's sat on the couch. He's made coffee at his coffee shop. He's been out of it so long, and he's only got so many races to prove, he's still worthy. It's tough. I don't really know how to break this one down, but I think Trevor Bayne is going to be smart in what he does. If it's a plate track, Trevor Bayne was a good plate track racer when he was racing Cup, and Xfinity all those years. So I'll take a shot on Trevor Bayne being the hungrier, smarter driver in this situation.
Yeah, I think you're again. I think you're spot on with that. I mean, obviously, Daytona 500 winner. I've been impressed by what he's been able to do by not racing for as long and then come into Xfinity, which is not easy. Um, However, when we come to tracks like this, it's unknown. I'm going to go with the Xfinity past champion of last year and go Daniel Hemrick. I mean, he is with Colleague. We talked about that briefly a little bit ago. How can you bet against him? So I would put my money on Colleague and Daniel Hemrick in this race.
No arguments for me. Probably won't bet it, but
yeah,
that's
sure.
just for sake. Herbst versus Moffitt. I mean, good Lord. I mean, you're taking Moffitt probably
100%.
nine times out of 10, probably 10 times out of 10. You talk about a guy who's cost me money. Add Riley Herbst to the top of the list in Xfinity. That dude lights money on fire. I have a saying, chalk Herbst in DFS never works. Like I shit you not. Like when he is in the best spot possible, that dude does not deliver. There's always something that happens with that guy. And I hope to God Zane Smith gets that 98 car next year. Like this dude, Monster is like paying his bills, and it's just sad to see. But yeah, Moffitt, 10 times out of 10.
Well, as much times as Herbst has lost you money, he has won me money because I go against him as much as I can. Anytime there's a matchup, he wrecks so much. He is the Natalie Decker of Xfinity. So I go against him anytime I can. That's just how it goes sometimes. So seeing that matchup, that will be either in a parlay. I know we have NCAA basketball this weekend. Wouldn't mind throwing it over. Plus that matchup, I'd be very happy with that. So I'll fade him all day.
That's an interesting. I might bet that right now because there's a good chance that's not going to be there all week.
Yeah.
Barry versus Jones. Give me Barry just with the better odds.
Same.
But let's see here. That should do it for Xfinity. Let me see here. We may have to start new. We got 2 minutes till we have to start a new meeting. We might be able to fly through these trucks here, or we could just fly through these. Well, they don't have matchups, so there you go. I guess just take a look here. Is there any truck guys that stand out based on these odds before we close it up?
Yeah, let me see here real quick. John Hunter, I think he's the better truck. The two guys I would say is John Hunter Nemechek and Ross Chastain. Ross is obviously racing on Sunday. He did the tire test for the Cup Series as the only Chevy driver. With his experience, he's been fast this year. I know it's trucks; it's a different animal. But just through the experience and some of the momentum he's riding, those would be the two guys that jump off to me. What about you?
No, I would agree. Ryan Preece, he's probably gonna be up there. I'm kind of interested. What do you think? Is trucks going to be? Is it going to be pack racing, or do you assume it's probably going to be a little bit more spread out? Because once you get past like the top 10, those guys can't hang. There's only like 8 to 10 guys that can realistically put up similar lap times. Then you got the next 10. Then you got the next 10.
I think you're spot on. I think you're exactly right with that. It was kind of what I was leaning towards, is that from the talent level, I think it'll get spread out just because there's not as great of talent in that series. Where I think it'll be a little bit more spread out versus some of the Xfinity and Cup. So yeah, I think you're right about that.
So if that's the case, it's going to be hard to break those KBM trucks up. So I think definitely, who's driving? Is it Corey Heim? Yeah, I'm probably going to put Corey Heim. Money on Corey Heim, but
no.
I think it'll definitely be hard to get the 50 or what number is John Hunter? 4. It'd be hard to do it'll be hard to break up the 4 and 18. But I do think Preece will be up there. He's a good plate track guy. He's really good in the draft. So if he can get some help, I think he has a chance. But like you said, Ross Chastain, that dude, is there anybody hotter than Ross Chastain right now? I mean, the dude's flying every race he's in. So
you're right.
Outside of that, you got Carson Hocevar at plus 2,500. I mean, he's always got a rocket. Majeski, he's going to have a rocket. But outside of that, there's really no good odds. Yeah. Any last thoughts before we get off here?
No, I think we really touched on a lot, across all three series. So no, I don't have anything really to add from a driver or cup standpoint. So yeah, I think we really touched on a lot of it.
Yeah, and I wish we could do some truck matchups, but I guess
Yeah.
DraftKings is dropping the ball. Yeah, so let's just let's go through the winning picks one more time, just straight picks. Who you got in the Cup Series?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with William Byron. If I was to choose one, I'm gonna put my money on William this weekend. Again, we touched on Ryan Blaney, but William is a guy that I feel like is gonna get done Sunday.
Yeah, I'll go with Tyler Reddick. Similar to our bets, I think we're just gonna pick those. Xfinity Series, who you got?
Well, I think again it's hard to go against the guy that's finished top 3 the last 4 weeks. One of the better super speedway racers, if that's what this is going to be. So I'd go Noah Gragson.
You won't get an argument for me. I'll go. Man, I don't even know who I want at this point. Man, that's terrible.
It's hard, right? Yeah.
I'll go Josh Berry for the heck of it.
I like it. Yeah.
Just something random. If there's carnage, hopefully he stays out of it. Truck Series sounded like you had. Who'd you have again? You said John Hunter.
Yeah, I would go John Hunter. Call me chalk. I'll go with the plus 500 John Hunter just to get it started going into the weekend.
I mean, if they're going to be wide open, like I think they probably will be. I mean, how are you going to pass? How are you going to pass in Truck Series?
Sure. Yeah.
So
that's gonna be interesting.
Track position is probably going to be key for trucks. Yeah, I think give me Chandler Smith. I mean, he's shown a little bit more speed lately out of those KBM guys. I'll just take the extra plus 200, but John Hunter's probably, I mean, he's probably going to be pissed that Chandler Smith beat him to a win this year. So
I like it.
Yeah, that'll do it. I appreciate you hopping on here. I'll definitely have to get you back on here. I know the viewers, they'll like it. Yeah, if you're not following Derek on Twitter, he is at Picks by Blaze. If you're not following me, you stumbled upon this on YouTube. I'm at Burnout Avenue. I need to find a new name, but I just can't find a name great username. But with that being said, thumbs up, like the video, subscribe if you liked it. If you didn't, then thanks for watching. Yeah. Any last words?
No, Josh, I appreciate you having me on. Excited to be on now for this race. So looking forward to doing it again in the future. And thank you for allowing me to come on and join you today.
No doubt. No doubt. All right. That'll wrap it up. We'll see you guys next week.